Hi, friends, and welcome back to Motivation Mondays on A Peculiar Project. I'm Fritz. Today we are talking about 10 tips for finding the time to write. You may have seen some of these, but you haven't seen all of them all in one place, so here we go. Although all of these are helpful, the most important thing to understand is that it's okay to take time for yourself and for your hobbies. It's okay to spend time on things that don't make money. I know we're in a culture of capitalism and hustle, the hustle culture, but creativity doesn't work that way. And the best and most selling creative works aren't created under the duress of have to make a buck. That's just not how this culture works. Despite what capitalism would have us believe, it's not about competition, it's about finding your that authentic voice and expressing it. So here today, it's time to understand that that's okay. It's a part of the human existence, the human condition, that we have these creative drives. And part of being satisfied with your life is that you have time to do whatever you want. And if what you want to do is write, then that's what you should use your time for. It's okay to write without the desire to publish. That's okay too. There's a big push, to write towards the market in some way, to work on your craft in a way that is sellable. And to an extent, I will talk about that on this channel. But if that's not your goal, then write the way you want to and write the topics that you want to write. Um, you can write for pure enjoyment, and you are still a writer if you do so. So that is absolutely fine. There are innumerable artists out there doing what they love just because they love it, not because they expect to make money at it. So, on to more practical tips for finding time to write. First is the belief that you deserve this time. Second is making that time a reality. I'm going to start with a broad subset of tips that fall under the heading of make a plan. So, by this, I don't necessarily mean outline or a plan for your specific work. I mean a plan for your writing sessions. What do those look like? Tip number 2 is to find a time to write. And this has two purposes. Tip number 2 has two purposes. So, the first purpose is for you to know that that's what this time is for, to set aside other distractions and focus on your writing. And the other purpose is to let your family and friends know that this is time that you shouldn't be interrupted, that you are trying to concentrate on something important to you. But I want to dive into the first part. That's your mental game. You are committing to spending this amount of time writing. And it's important to set aside that time not just from friends and family or blocking it on your calendar. I'm not working, I'm doing this, but putting away your phone, putting away the distractions, and really focusing on the writing. Whatever aspect of writing you need to practice in that session is fine, but making sure that you're actually doing the writing, letting your writing time be used for its actual purpose instead of getting distracted or procrastinating. Tip number 3 is to have a space. Know where you're going to be writing. You'll see some Instagrammy stuff about like your writing space, and it'll be perfectly clean, and there will be no distractions, and it's in the common grays of today. And most of the writers I know do not have a clean desk. There are stacks of papers, there are cords tangled up underneath in between the papers, there are books stacked high and low, drinks and old mugs and whatever, and we keep that out of the frame when we're on Zoom or whatever platform. But um, having a space, a lot of people will recommend a dedicated space that is specific for your writing. Um, that sounds nice, but it's not a realistic goal for a lot of people. I think more realistic is to just know where you plan to write so that you can be prepared. You will have whatever tools you need there, whether it's your laptop or a notebook and pen or diction. You can write on your phone as long as you are good at not letting it distract you. You can use an iPad with a little keyboard, whatever it is that works for you. And I encourage you to experiment. We'll talk about that soon. Um, but it doesn't have to be a dedicated space in your house that is only a writing corner or a writing desk. It can be that you go to the library once a week and focus on your writing. It can be you go to the coffee shop or a bookstore. There are lots of places where you can write. Maybe it's on the deck, maybe it's in an office, whatever it is. Just know where you intend to write so that you will have what you need with you and you can establish that space and clear your head when you get there and you know that you're ready to write. Tip number 4 is to create a playlist for yourself. This can be a lot of fun for a lot of people. I tend to listen to ambient electronic music. It's pretty weird for some people. Some people don't like it. A lot of people listen to movie soundtracks because they have that natural storytelling arc, the drive towards a climax, and a sort of ebb and flow of tension. Other people listen to classical music. A lot of writers choose music without lyrics, but not everyone does. So I tend to, like I said, listen to dark ambient or ambient music. Sometimes I'll put in some techno or something, but I try to steer away from lyrics, but sometimes something else sneaks in. The importance is that you pick what gets you going, what makes you feel motivated, like you're really moving and you're really working. And if that's hip hop, if it's metal, if it's pop, if it's house, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is what works for you. What's interesting to me about having a playlist is that it can often act as an almost Pavlovian trigger for writing. And especially if you have a playlist for each character or for a particular story you're working on, it can really quickly get your brain in the mode of working on that story. That has worked really well for me. I do eventually, of course, get bored of that playlist and make another one. But I do also tend to make like 2, 3, 4 hour long playlists so that I don't get bored as easily. And the way I do it is I use a streaming service, anyone will do. And I don't always listen to a playlist, I sometimes listen to new stuff. And as I'm listening to those, the aggregates that the streaming service puts together, I'll just when a track draws my attention or seems really great, I'll move it onto a playlist. I'll just have a new playlist running that I'm adding to and the old playlist that I'm listening to currently, usually while I'm writing, maybe at other times as well. While I'm driving, sometimes that's a creative time as well. Tip number 5 is to pick your project in advance. So once you sit down, you can get straight to work instead of casting about for something. And that can be as detailed as having an outline already prepared for your story or knowing what scene you're going to work on next. Or it can be as simple as knowing where you're going to go to find your story prompt. So if you, a good example is like Writer's Digest in April did Poem a Day. And they posted a prompt every day in the month of April to write a poem about. You could use that for a story instead of a poem. I tried to kind of dabble in poetry as much as in prose just to get the exercise in. And so I did some of those. I didn't do it every day, but I knew where I was going to go. If I sat down to write a poem, I went there, I looked at the prompt, I either wrote it or I didn't. If it didn't inspire me, I didn't do it because poetry is not my main jam. I mostly am working in sci fi fantasy novel form, but I wanted to kind of shake things up and loosen up a little bit. So if I saw something that was inspiring, I wrote on that topic kind of poetically, maybe for half an hour, and then I switched over to the novel. But I knew ahead of time what I was going to do. And that can be helpful because it helps you jump in. This is sort of a sub tip under pick your project, but what a lot of people do, especially if they're writing long form, is they will stop writing a scene before that scene is over so that when they sit down fresh the next day, or the next writing session, they can jump right in because they're at an exciting point. And then if they finish that scene, they start the next one. So again, the next time they sit down to write, they're already in a scene. They aren't trying to figure out what am I writing now. Tip number 6 is to have a ritual. And by that I don't mean anything religious or woo woo. I mean go through a series of steps in the same order in preparation to start writing. That can be make your cup of tea, put it where you want it, make sure your notebook and pen are present, start up your computer, whatever it is that works for you. Find that series of steps that gets you going and do it immediately. Do it in order, and that will help trigger your brain again to get into the writing mode. It's kind of like if you are like a racehorse waiting for the gun to go off, waiting to be told start. Your brain is like, ooh, I want to work on this project, but we're doing the ritual. I want to work on the project. When can I start? When can I start? And then when it's time to start, your brain is ready. Now we are getting into the second subcategory, and here we're going to negate some of the things I said before. Where before I was talking about making a plan, some of these are going to feel like the opposite, which is don't make a plan. Tip number 7 is work on whatever project calls to you. So, like I said with the poetry prompts, I either did them or I didn't, and I gave them part of my writing time and then I moved on to the novel. That's what worked for me um, because I have that longer goal of finishing a novel. So, other people, if that's not your goal, if you just want to write for fun, especially, then sit down and write whatever you want. Find a prompt and work on it. You don't even have to finish yesterday's project. You can just start something new every time you sit down. It's totally fair game. So I know that that contradicts a lot of the advice out there, which will say, like, finish what you start. And we will talk about the importance of finishing what you start. But when it comes to motivation, sometimes you have to just let your creativity run wild, and that's totally okay. And similarly, tip number 8 is write whenever you want. You will see all over the internet advice to write every day, have a regular time that you write at the same time every day, and that works for a lot of people. There is a lot to be said for building a habit, and that will get you towards a longer goal. But if you especially are just starting out and you're trying to get into the feel of what writing is like, then just write when you feel like it, and that's okay. It really is okay to just write whenever you feel like it and write whatever you want. Another aspect of this is even for people working towards longer stories, sometimes we have a lot of responsibilities in our adult lives. We have kids, we have day jobs, we have homes and pets and parents and all these obligations. We have school and studies, and finding the time to write feels either challenging or extra. It just feels like is it really a priority? It's hard to prioritize. That's what I'm trying to say. So for a lot of people who have all of these responsibilities, it might be helpful to think of writing as something that can fit in the little spaces. It doesn't have to be a 2-hour block of dedicated writing time in a special place after conducting a ritual. You can do the opposite. If you are waiting somewhere in line, you can write probably 100 words on your phone. Just email it to yourself if you or use your notes program or whatever. If you have kids and you're watching them at practice, you can write. You can get a little, they're cheap, you can get a little keypad that attaches to any kind of tablet, and you can write in the bleachers, you can write on the sidelines, you can write in your car while you're waiting. Um, So if you're at the doctor's office in the waiting room, anytime that you have 5 minutes or more, you can get some writing done. You can do just a few minutes before bedtime. Another thing that's important to acknowledge is there are different kinds of writers. Some people really benefit from writing every single day. Some people don't have the drive to do that. Some people are really good at binge writing. They have a concept, they set aside time, they write as hard as they can for a week or a month, and they get a whole novel done, a draft. And then they're done writing for the year. And that's fine too. I think a big deal is made out of writing every day, and that doesn't work for everyone. So, whether you write in microbursts or binge write for a week straight or plod along at an hour a day, find the time to write that works for you and experiment. Um, Tip number 9, I kind of already touched on, and that is ways of finding inspiration. Inspiration can come in a lot of forms. Sometimes it's a dream, sometimes it's a weird misunderstanding. Um, but two really solid places to keep yourself motivated to write and to find inspiration are in craft books or in writing prompts. Writing prompts are really popular and you can find them all over the internet. You can find books of writing prompts. You'll find prompts for journaling, for poetry, for short stories, for flash fiction, for all different kinds of things. You'll find prompts for memoir writing. So search the internet, look for something that fits the genre and the style that you like. But also remember to go outside of that. You'll be surprised that prompts for one thing can lead to ideas in your favorite genre. So give that a shot as well. And the other thing I mentioned is craft books. There are a ton of craft books. One of the most famous that you'll hear writers talk about is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. There's also On Writing by Stephen King. So those are specifically inspirational, but there are also books you'll find as you get writing. Maybe you're struggling with plotting, so you'll read books on plotting. Maybe you're struggling with dialogue, so you'll read about how to do that. Even while reading a technical book like that, something spurs an idea. Who knows where ideas come from, but something in reading that will get you going, and you'll put that book aside and start writing. And then you'll get stuck again or demotivated, and maybe you'll go back to that book and start reading and get back into it and learn something and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to try that. So there's kind of an ebb and flow for me with craft books. I'll read some and be inspired, and then I won't read one for months, and then I'll be like kind of floating, lost a little bit, and I'll come back to a craft book and I'll find my voice again or I'll find my drive. So that's something to look at as well. And then finally, tip number 10, and this is something I've kind of said in a few of these tips, but I want to make it explicit, and that is feel free to experiment. Um, Not everybody is the same. That's the beauty of the arts. So take your time, try some of these tips out. The ones that don't work, discard. You don't have to do it my way. You don't have to do it anybody's way. You don't have to do it Stephen King's way. Do it your way. You're trying to find your way of writing. And that's the beauty of this whole process. So use some of these tips, try them out, give them a fair try. And if they work, great. If they don't, oh well, doesn't matter to me. Um, but another thing to keep in mind is as you progress as a writer, it's okay to come back to something that didn't work for you before. It might work for you now. And I've also heard from other novelists and kind of experienced myself that every novel is different. So even if you think you figured out how to write a novel or a short story or a poem, the next one might work differently. You might need different resources or different habits or a different location to write in. And so you might be back to the drawing board and looking for different tips to get going. So you can start over with these and see what you find, see what works for you to get this project done. So that's what I've got for you, 10 tips on how to make time to write. I hope that this was helpful for you. If it was, please do like and subscribe. I've got more ideas for content coming up. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what helped you find the time to write and what you think might help others.